Hey, I went to Santa Barbara yesterday all by myself because I am bored. What's up? It's the Culture Detective here investigating your favorite albums. And today I'm going to be doing a mini albums review where I talk about a bunch of albums that I wanted to talk about, but I just don't have a lot of time now because I am a college student. Starting off, let's talk about the new Idols album, Tank. British hardcore punk legends Idols is back with a new album. Ever since the year 2017, I have been an Idols fan, and their first two albums, Brutalism and Joy as an Act of Resistance, are amazing albums, especially the latter, which I think is not only one of the best rock albums of the 2010s, but also features some of the most well written, exciting, catchy, forward thinking, and explosive rock music of the last decade. So obviously, Idols is a really good band. However, they have been on a bit of a downwards trajectory with the album Ultra Mono, where we begin to see them make the change from raw hardcore punk to something that is a little bit more tame, more skeletal, like art punk, which is not a bad direction to go to. I wouldn't want a band to corner themselves and pigeonhole themselves in a certain genre. Of course, I want to see them grow. It's just that their music becomes way more forgettable since Ultra Mono. And then the last album they released is Crawler, which I honestly have forgotten before doing research, or not really research, but before writing this review. I was like, oh yeah, Crawler was an album, and I almost forgot. So, Tank features idols that head towards an art punk direction even further, and unfortunately, once again, it is kind of a forgettable album with a lot of the tracks feeling kinda meh. So let's talk about the tracks that I enjoy first. The track that I like the most on the album is the track Gift Horse, which has a very skeletal structure to the track, but I really love the dirty guitar riffs, the shouty choruses. Joe Talbot is bursting with energy on this track, which makes it stand out. It's almost a bit of like an Idols throwback track. Like, this track would have fit into Joy as an Act of Resistance really smoothly. I also like the track Jungle with the blown out guitars and chord progressions that I can only describe as theatrical, maybe a little unconventional. The track Gratitude starts off very quiet, but the track progressively gets more and more noisy and angry, which is a sound that I would love to hear. But unfortunately, the rest of the tracks are kind of middle of the road, kind of dime a dozen. Occasionally, there's a good idea here and there, but at the end of the day, a lot of the tracks just come off kinda bland. We have the track Dancer, which I honestly think is not bad. It features LCD sound system, which is crazy. Top 10 anime crossovers, am I right? And as expected, there is fusion between the dance grooves of LCD sound system and the roughness of Idols. But even so, it is basically an art punk slow burn that isn't as good as I thought this crossover would be. It gets a little groovy, but there's nothing about the track that really blows my mind. We have tracks like Idea 01, which is the album opener, and the track A Gospel, which features Radiohead producer Nigel Godrich, which is amazing, except not really, because it just sounds like two very different styles and it's just very mismatched. The track Pop 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 doesn't really pop. There's just something really deadpan and soulless about it. Roy has a pretty awesome chorus, and Joe Talbot practically sings on this track, but the slow ballad is just not the band's strong suit at all. It just comes off really drab, unfortunately. And the track Grace is so slow and meandering. Hall and Oates is pretty much the final good song that I really enjoy on the album. It's an awesome rock and roll track with uplifting lyrics. But then we are hit with the final track, Monolith, which is a very underwhelming ending. It's a slow burn. I like the lyrics about self growth and acceptance, but overall, it's just Yeah, sure. It's just another one of those really slow and bland endings. So yeah, unfortunately, not huge on this album. Feeling a light to decent 6 on this thing. The next album I'm going to be talking about is the new Zazen Boys album, Rando. So, Zazen Boys is a Japanese math rock band, and they're formed in the early 2000s, and now they have released a new album. And yeah, what I like about this band is that their music is really rough around the edges, they're very raw and stripped back at times, and the vocalist certainly comes off very eccentric and wild and crazy at times, which is something that I really love to hear. However, there really isn't a lot to say about this album. The album opener Danbira, for example, showcases how eccentric and wild the vocalist is, but then we have the drums and the guitar riffs that basically is a loop that just constantly repeats again and again and again and again and again and again and again without any progression. So a lot of the tracks sort of follow that formula, and it just comes off really one dimensional. But even so, the second half of the album actually have quite a few highlights. We have the track Koen ni wa daremo inai, or There is Nobody at the Park. And I really love the summary guitar chords on that track. And the next track, Bugatsu Kairi no High School Boy, has a bit more variation in the instrumentals, and we have these blocks of noisy, distorted guitars that I really like. And the track Yakimo has these rambly spoken word bits on top of marching drums that make it an interesting interlude. The title track, on the other hand, is really chaotic and angular on top of a 9/8 time signature. Almost reminds me a little bit of Black MIDI at times. And the album ends off with big revving bass riffs that sounds like they came from an early Tool album. And then we have quirky spoken word bits. So overall, there are really good, solid ideas on the album, but the first half is a little bit lacking. I'm feeling a 7 out of 10 for this album. Ah! Third album I'm going to be talking about is the new Yeat album 2093. So this is my first serious Yeat review because the last time I reviewed Yeat, it was not actually a review. I didn't really give a score because I didn't really know what to say about his music other than it's just more of the same drab trap rap music. But very interestingly, Yeat has made a bit of a change. We have industrial and experimental sci-fi rap music on this album instead of the usual rage and pop rap that Yeat is usually known for. However, this album is 70 minutes long and it has 22 songs. It's too long. It's too long, okay? It's bloated. And I really like how Yeat basically writes lyrics that are more thought-provoking, thoughtful, and this time he's sobered up. He's not rapping while he's high, which means that a lot of his lyrics actually mean things now, which is really cool. Some of the production on this album is just very fuzzy and electronic. I really love it. But then again, it's too long. It's overstayed its welcome just a bit too much. Power CEO is a woozy album opening with big trap beats, expressive performances, legitimately pretty good. Power Trip is a track where he contemplates on his fame. I'm not a huge fan of the instrumentals, but I really like how alien it sounds. Breathe, easily my favorite track here. This is a total banger. I love the crispy, bassy beats. It's very tight paced. It's very catchy. I love the vocal mantras. Breathe, breathe. And then More features these boom bap beats that are very refreshing to hear Yeat rap on. The track Bought the Earth has Yeat rapping about sobriety and his life choices, and then the track Lifestyle features Lil Wayne, and honestly, Lil Wayne's feature fits on this beat like a glove. Then we have tracks like Psycho Kane and Run They Mouth, which I think is just kind of okay, mediocre tracks. Same for tracks like I Love and Tell Me. They all sound pretty same. The second half of the album definitely starts to trail things off a bit. Ride and Set It Off is a very chaotic track, but then again, it's a little redundant. Team CEO and title track They have the potential, but they never really reached the potential. I really like the big synth hits in the former of the two, but eh. And then we have Stand On It featuring Future. It sounds like Future recorded it on a potato. I don't know why. The only final good track in the second half of the album is If We Being Real, which is just awesome because the synths in the back just sound so weird and alien and psychedelic. But overall, I think the album is just alright, kind of feeling a strong 6 on this album. Yeah! The fourth album I'm going to be talking about is the new Last Dinner Party album, Prelude to Ecstasy. This is the debut album to the British glam rock, theatrical rock opera, maybe, band, and it's crazy because it's their debut album, but right off the bat they already have grand instrumentals, fierce vocals with a lot of eccentricity and quirkiness, and we also have lyrics about femininity and gender roles, like on the tracks Feminist Urge and Beautiful Boy, that I think is really important, especially for glam rock, to sort of bring back that lyrical topic. But anyways, this album really grew on me and has a lot of highlights here and there. The track Burn Alive is awesome. It sounds like a Susie and the Banshees track. This is a happy house, but like more modern and updated, and I totally don't mind that at all. I love the driving beats. The chorus is a banger. And then we have the track Caesar on the TV screen, and it's a very theatrical track with crazy time signature changes, kooky hooks. There's just like a fire to all these performances that I just really, really like. The track On Your Side features some of the most fiery and passionate musical moments of the year thus far. And the track Sinner features these ABBA-esque vocal harmonies on top of dirty drums and blaring guitars. Nothing Matters is a dreamy mid-paced track with reverby vocals with an amazing bass line and boldly sexual lyrics that I'm usually not a huge fan of, but I do appreciate how liberating the writing gets, I guess. And Mirror is a ballad ending, which is a little cliche at this point, but you know what? It's not a bad ballad. That said, they are still a pretty young band. I still see a lot of potential in them, but this is a really promising debut album, and honestly, feeling a light 8 on this album. Yes. The fifth album I'm going to be talking about is the new Brittany Howard album, What Now? Brittany Howard continues to put out music after going solo, after, I guess, departing from Alabama Shakes, or at least that band is on a bit of a hiatus. On this album, we hear a lot of neo soul and disco, which is really nice. The highlights on this album are really good, but unfortunately, a lot of the tracks on this album just sound kind of average and basic to me, in my opinion. So the two tracks I really like is, first of all, I Don't, which is a dreamy and sweet and lovely track. And then next up we have Prove It To You, which is basically a dance banger with a house beat and an infectious chorus. And what's surprising to me on this album is that a lot of the production on this album is very noisy, yet melodically weak. We have tracks like Red Flags and Samson and Power to Undo that I just didn't really enjoy all that much. The track that I kind of liked though is Patience, which is a pretty nostalgic psychedelic soul track with a lot of dense production. Finally, we have Another Day, which I think is easily the worst song on the album. This song sounds like three different songs smashed together. It's kind of a mess. On one hand, we have these very cheeky, lightweight soul vocals. On the other hand, we have noisy, clanging percussion, and they just do not match at all. So, yeah, 6 out of 10. Finally, I'm going to be talking about the new Allie X album, Girl with No Face. So Allie X is a Canadian synth pop artist, and this is her new album, Girl with No Face. And honestly, there are a myriad of bangers on this album. The first half of this album is, in my opinion, really great, but the second half is just decent at best. Weird World, very cool album opener. Obviously, it takes a lot of inspirations from all sorts of legendary synth pop acts, but it's still really catchy. I also really like the title track. The production is really sharp, really on point, and I just really love the beats. And of course, we have the track "Off with the Tits," or "Off with Her Tits," which is not only a crazy show-stopping song title, but also it's a sassy track that sounds like a soundtrack to some action thriller. I love the unhinged lyrics. It's also a track about body dysmorphia, which I think is a lyrical topic that is not being explored enough in music. Hardware Software, it's the lowest rated track on Rate Your Music, but I honestly kind of like it. Ooh. Because I listened to this track and all the bleeps and bloops and cheekiness, and I just thought to myself, this is the kind of song Grimes wish she would be making right now. So this is like Grimes but good. There's a lot of sexual innuendos on this track, which I really don't care for, but it's honestly not bad. Following that, we have the track Black Eye, which is honestly a highlight of the album. The vocals are very natural and lively and almost a little amateurish, but then we have these very robotic, stiff production, these 80s throwback synths a la New Order, which I really love, and also lyrically, she makes a correlation between music enjoyment and violence, which is very interesting. The rest of the album is just okay. It's either very derivative or it just could have gone harder. And the album sort of ends off in this happy, jolly ending that is just okay, that I'm not really huge on, but overall, not a bad album. Feeling a 7 on this thing as well. So yeah, these are the albums I have listened to. What are your thoughts on them? Comments below, let me know, subscribe if you want more, and thanks for watching. Yay.